Deputy Mayor,
Pass.
just got it, thanks. Is there anybody that would like to get on the first Q&A session? I understand there is.
You adding anything to the agenda?
Yes,
Yeah, but just, can I just get your name, please?
Stephanie Malloy.
Stephanie Malloy, okay. All right. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried, thank you. We got a set of minutes here for regular public council meeting of February 17th. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried, thank you. We don't have any conflict of interest.
No, that's the one that was
Stuff here, that
removed,
one's
so-
been removed. Proclamations. Proclamation for Purple Day. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Purple Day for Epilepsy, March 26, 2025. Whereas Purple Day is a global effort to promote epilepsy awareness in countries around the world, and whereas Purple Day was founded by 9-year-old Cassidy Megan of Nova Scotia, who wanted to let people know that if you have epilepsy, you are not alone. And whereas epilepsy is a chronic neurological disorder which affects each person differently, estimated to affect more than 10,000 people in Newfoundland and Labrador, over 300,000 people in Canada, and 50 million people worldwide. And whereas 1 in 10 persons will have at least one seizure during their lifetime, and whereas the public is often unable to recognize common seizure types and unable to respond with appropriate first aid, and whereas Purple Day will be celebrated on March 26th annually to increase understanding, reduce stigma, and improve the quality of life for people living with epilepsy throughout the country and globally.
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Craig Scott of Torbay, do hereby proclaim March 26th as Purple Day in an effort to raise awareness and understanding of epilepsy and to support all those who live with seizures each day. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? I'll have a comment then before we go forward. This is a particular proclamation that I thank council for bringing forward. It's something that is anybody that knows me or my sister for a long time knows that my nephew suffers from a very severe form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. At one point, he was having over 100 seizures a day, and his development was really hampered by all the drugs that he had to take in order to be able to control these seizures. I'm happy to say that he's 16 years old now, and he's been having these seizures since he was 1. And my sister, when it comes to advocating for Dravet syndrome and epilepsy, is she's nothing short of a hero, really, when you think about it, all that she's been through. So I want to thank everybody for putting this forward, and that I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you very much. So Q&A. Stephanie, right? You go ahead. You can come up to the microphone, if you don't mind.
Dear Mayor, council members, I am addressing you this evening in hopes that the town of Torbay will reject in principle development of 1669 Torbay Road for 81 condo units located in 5 individual buildings, as well as consideration for this type of development on this site in the future. My backyard boundary is this property and has caused myself and my family great stress. I have been a resident of Torbay for 41 years, my entire life. Torbay provided me a love of life, adventure, family, and friends. This was so impactful to my childhood that my partner and I chose to build our forever home so we could continue such a life. This particular area of Torbay is truly unique and a special location. Our neighbors are more than just a house next door or down the road, but like family and friends, somewhere I wouldn't hesitate to ask for help, and that is very rare to find these days. The issues that bother me with this proposal of the multi-dwelling condo, especially of this magnitude, is not preserving or enhancing social or cultural character of Torbay. not a solution for a housing crisis that may create a neighborhood identity crisis. The zoning modifications has created anxiety among neighborhood inhabitants. Residents have moved here because we want small town community with small town community values. The residents who spoke raised concerns about the development causing traffic congestion, upsetting the water table, whether the new residents will create a population explosion, and more. With such a building constructed, it has led many to associate condos with gentrification. As the buildings age, the luster of them may fade, and the extent of renovations or rebuilding, rather than forms of ownership, will define the character of the neighborhood. With tourism being an important part of Torbay's economy, I think it is important to avoid creating an outdated, deteriorating, and unattractive destination. The demand for condos, once a lucrative segment, has diminished as people prioritize larger living spaces suitable for remote work. The high cost of living in urban centers, coupled with the desire for more spacious homes, has driven many potential buyers to look for alternatives outside the city. This shift has resulted in a surplus of unsold condo units and increased maintenance costs for existing ones. According to the CMHC, there has been a 55% decline in housing year over year and a significant decline in multi-unit construction. Torbay is a rural escape for families seeking to escape the confines of condo life. Engaging the community partnerships and understanding local needs can lead to more resilient and adaptive projects. With that, I would like to thank you for your time and your consideration. I have also a petition signed by 95 people of concerned residents of the surrounding areas that I would like to put forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can give Kim the petition.
I just got an alert. The microphone's not working here.
Oh, okay.
I do have other concerned residents that I think would like to have a word, if that's okay with council.
It is. We have a specific time limit for this section of the
Okay.
meeting. It's 15 minutes, so,
We did 3. 2
Okay.
minutes left.
what?
2 minutes left.
15?
No, 5.
Yeah,
Yes.
per person?
Oh, per person is 5.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
if somebody else wants to speak, they can. But before we do that, actually, yeah, no, go ahead. I'll just let you go ahead, because I just want to explain a little bit about the process. So, but
Still on and out.
I can do that now, before anybody else speaks, just in case I might answer some of the questions that you have. So, first of all, I want to thank you for coming and presenting. I could tell you were a little bit nervous, that's fine. Yeah, listen, it doesn't necessarily get easier over time. But what I will say is that this proposal, this stage that it's in right now of the public notification, is part of the regular process that the town is required to follow for a discretionary use application. We don't have the ability as a council to turn down something that, when someone submits an application, no matter what it is, really, that we can't just outright say no. We don't have the ability to do that under the legislation. We just can't. So we have to allow it to go through the process. But the notification process for the public is exactly for this reason that you guys are here tonight, is to give residents an opportunity to have a say on it prior to council making a decision. So everything that you said, and I hope that you submitted that to the planning department so that the committee can look at it. Everything that we receive is looked at through the committee, and then it's taken into account where we go further with the application process. If it goes any further, or if council takes a decision on it at that point. But we are required by legislation to go through the notification process. I think it's 2 weeks, Julia, that it's 2 weeks, to gather that information, because, yes, so far, I guess we've heard that a lot of people are against it, and that's fine. And then, but we also have to give the opportunity to the proponent to be able to put forward their piece, and then council weigh all of that in one big package and then take a decision. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that just because something goes out for a public notification does not mean that council has taken a decision on it. We as a council, as a whole, haven't even discussed it. So that that part of the process has to go forward first, then we take that decision afterwards. So I just wanted to say that I know that Colleen and I had a little email go back and forth, and I appreciate her sentiments there, but we are bound by Urban Rural Planning Act, by our development regulations, by everything, to go through the process as it is. So with that, you can go ahead. Can I get your name?
I'm Dr. Sandra Cunning, but my friends all call me Sandra, please.
Okay.
So I don't know if I have a right to speak here, but,
Everybody has a right to speak here.
well, I'm pretty new, so it's all good. But as my neighbors would say, I loves it here. Mayor, council, my neighbors, and new friends. I've had response about this as somebody who lives in Torbay, as a resident. But I'd actually really like to have a conversation with you about what has been opened up as a housing crisis. And I think this is a really important conversation, and I'm really grateful that it is starting to be framed with this, in this way. So I come at this from about, 20, 25 years experience in the mental health and social services field, in the last 10 in supportive housing, mental health case management. So I've done evaluations and reviews for the City of Toronto, and I've also worked in private-public partnership to build on-site intensive support housing. And so I come at this with a particular lens, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to start to have a conversation about it. The first thing I'd like to say, if high-density housing really worked, then cities like Toronto, Etobicoke, Vancouver, and other major areas would have solved their housing crisis. It just wouldn't exist, because there is no place in Ontario or Canada that has had more high density built than the City of Toronto and the GTA. So I'd like to break this down a little bit. People who truly need housing won't be moving into this development. The places left vacant by people wanting to move into this development will not be affordable to people who really need it. The people who are most in need of housing also tend to need other supports. They need supports like food banks, access to social and government supports, health supports for things like foot care, frostbite, respiratory infection, mental health, and addictions, and community connections. I don't see those out here. And that is not a critique about Torbay whatsoever, because this is I grew up in a small town of 600 in Northern Ontario. And the reason I'm here is because it reminds me of home, and because what people do here. To access these things, you need a car or some form of transportation. So people who are experiencing true housing crisis don't tend to have cars. And as much as I would like to see it, I haven't yet seen public transportation available in Torbay. So we really have to think about the infrastructure supports that need to go into this. But I can assure you, if there was public transportation, I know that the people of Torbay would welcome any new neighbors who needed assistance. I've been on the receiving end of that. So if we want to talk about how to solve the housing crisis, we need to ensure stable, accessible, well-designed housing with appropriate supports. At Home Chez Soi by Latimer showed that if you do this in 2017, you can reduce the costs associated with emergency services such as police, emergency room, and shelters by about $60,000 a year per person. This is also supported by research by Jones and Pawson and Sullivan and Walskog. I know this because I did this research for the City of Toronto when I evaluated their rent bank and voluntary trusteeship programs back in 2020. So how do you solve a housing crisis? Well, we need to start building a continuum that allows people to move from level to level as needs change. We can start with credit ratings that allow for rents to be counted towards credit scores so people can actually get mortgages. We can do rent bank and voluntary trusteeship programs to help people stay in their homes. This currently applies to rentals, but we should probably consider this for things like mortgages so we can keep people in their homes and they don't have to move. Yep.
I hate to interrupt you, but I think that
Yeah.
time is
Okay.
off. If you just want to summarize.
Yep. We need to do public-private partnerships, case management supports, congregate living, on-site supported living, and on-site high support. So if you really want to end the housing crisis, let's talk about what it takes. But we need to stop talking about this development as solving a housing crisis. Newfoundlanders know how to do this, and they're the most honest and straightforward people I've met. So here's the honest truth. This development is fundamentally about greed and lining pockets and not about ending a housing crisis. Please let's stop positioning it as such. I will offer my time free of charge at volunteer if you want to address this, and I will gladly take this on and support my new home and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. How much time do we have left in this session?
We are up now at 12 minutes.
Okay, did anybody else want to have a moment to speak? Go ahead.
I can be brief.
All right,
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
that's fine.
Mayor, can you share that they have the right to submit their submissions to the town being included in the package for the next go rounds?
We already did.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
They've already
they
sub-
all understand.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Can I get your name?
Paul Thiessen.
Paul. Okay. Please.
It's a little low here. I think I should have coordinated with Sandra because I have many of the same thoughts. I was looking at the strategic plan of Torbay for 2023 to 2025. There's a sidewalk master plan. There's issues and feasibility studies around sewage and water. And a development like this, it puts the onus on the private developer for, I believe, upwards of 80 units. I don't know of any sewage system that can handle that, and I know what 80 different families could do to a sewage system untreated. So I think that puts a lot of liability on the surrounding environment in terms of if there's any issues. In terms of access, my wife and I have a young child. We walk along Torbay Road. We understand it's a provincially owned road, but people speed, there's drinking. 80 potential families in this area. Where are they going to go? There's no green space anywhere close. There's food land, which is great, but then they're walking along Torbay Road. Just as Sandra said, if this is a housing crisis solution, these will be some low-income people. They don't have cars, and they're expected to somehow get around. I know you have a transit feasibility study going up to 2025. I think that's great, but I think all those supports have to come in first before a project of this scale is even considered. So that's a brief summary of my thoughts.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, okay. All right, thank you all for your input, and, I know Kim has been busy taking notes, and make sure, please, that you submit, your thoughts and issues to planning committee, so that we'll have all that stuff in writing that we can use as we go forward. So thank you. Mayor's report, I don't have anything. Business arising, anybody?
Correct. You just let them know if they want to leave.
They can stay or
They
leave.
can
Oh, yeah, you
go
can
with
stay or
it.
leave.
It's
It's
fine.
up to you. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
not
if you don't
locked
want to.
Sometimes they don't.
Yes.
But you're welcome to. Yeah.
You're welcome.
You got a boring night.
Never, Mary, isn't it? Let's tell the truth.
All right. Business arising report. Okay. Correspondence. We have some correspondence here. One is Steps for Life. They sent me this a little while ago. It's a walk for families of workplace tragedy events, and they're asking us if we would like to put a team in from the town on May 4th. So that's in there. We'll forward that on, I guess, for consideration. The SAM 2025 Spring AGM is in Corner Brook. If any member of council would like to attend that, please let Sandy know, and we'll get you booked in there. We have a circular here from Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs about the Towns and Local Service District Act. They're reviewing the active town council meetings, rules, and procedure regulation. So that's that.
Motion to accept the council meetings for 2025.
Oh, yeah, I'm not finished.
Sorry.
I'm talking about this circular that came from the
TLDSA.
department, yes.
Just before.
So we have our meeting scheduled for 2025. Can I get a motion to adopt that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, moving on.
Can I just make one comment there about the SAM
Yes,
AGM?
go ahead.
That's for a member of council,
Yeah,
a member of staff, or a committee member interested town resident, because sometimes in the
Yeah.
past it was for council, but I think it's important to note that it's any one of the three.
right. I think myself and Robbie went to one in, was it Pasadena?
We went to one in Gander.
Gander, yes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there is supposed to be somebody from the Environment Advisory Committee who goes,
Okay,
if they can.
yeah.
But not necessarily staff, I mean the actual volunteer committee members.
Right.
They're supposed to be asked
Okay.
if they can go.
So let's make sure, Julia, that we circulate that to the committee and see if anybody would like to go. Thank you. Thank you, Robbie. All right, committee of the whole minutes for February 10th, 2025. Can I get a motion to adopt those minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have another committee of the whole minutes for February 24th, 2025. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Planning Land Use Development, Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. In a few seconds, I'll go through the enlargement process here for the PDFs. Item number one is a motion relating to a text amendment process related to the Housing Accelerator Fund and the use of subsidiary apartments in areas that were not previously covered under the plan. So the motion is to proceed with the public consultation process for a proposed text amendment to the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, so the town can consider a secondary suite as permitted use within single dwellings in all residential land use zones, as well as in existing single dwellings within the mixed development, town center zone, and commercial main street zones, The amendment will include text amendments to Schedule C for RMD, RI, RLL, RSL, mix, TC, and CM land use zone tables to add secondary suites and in-law suites to the list of permitted uses. Schedule B, classification table, to ensure secondary suites and in-law suites are listed as examples for the single dwelling class, and to Schedule A, definitions, to distinguish between secondary suites, formerly subsidiary apartments, and in-law suites. So moved.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Comments?
The motion says to proceed with public consultation process for proposed text amendment. So by voting for this, what we're saying is we're going to proceed to have community engagement, talk to residents about it. There is no change actually happening in this motion this evening about
No.
making those amendments to our policies, correct?
Mhm.
Right.
So I just want to clarify that. The second thing is, I wanted to bring up here, there were some really good points raised this evening by the residents that came in and talking about the importance of making sure that we have the right supports in place for changes in the community. One of the things that I love best about the town of Torbay is the rural feel of this community. So you can be in Paradise, you got the homes close together, you're in Mount Pearl, you got the same feel. Torbay is a community where you come in, it still feels almost like an import fishing village. You come up the coast and you get to see it exactly as the residents talked about. Neighbors are there to help you, shelter you, do that. That is what we have. We have a beautiful rural community just north of the city of St. John's. And I absolutely will be open to a public consultation and conversation, but we have residents in certain neighborhoods of this community that were told when they built their houses, we do not allow for infill, we do not allow for these sorts of things. And I think we really need to make sure that we're having those conversations with those residents about if we're gonna do this now, because we've had this conversation before, and there were concerns about, well, if we allow apartments in our neighborhood, part of the community, is that gonna impact the value of my home? I wasn't allowed to do that when I put my home in, and now all of a sudden council's changing this. So we've had some pretty serious outcry about making changes like this. Do we have a plan for what that public engagement is gonna look like, how we're gonna do it, how we're tapping into different neighborhoods, making sure it's a thorough process before we come back with any recommendations? Just curious to get a little further information about what that's gonna look like and how we're going to reach the masses. And I think that social component of making sure that we have the needs in place for, for a development of whatever change, what we're proposing here, should also be considered. So
Thank
maybe
you.
some just clarification about the process, what we're looking at, what we're thinking for the consultation, and assurance for residents who are reading this or watching to know that we aren't making changes to our policies and procedures tonight.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
So what we would do for this particular amendment, so this is not a kind of a neighborhood-specific amendment, so this would be an amendment that applies to all of Torbay. So what we're planning on doing is to go place an ad into the Northeast Avalon Times and put it on the town's website, and then greatly, basically distribute it via our social media channels. So that's the plan for this proposed amendment.
But Julie, for
Okay, thank you.
communities like Forest Landing,
Well-
Jones Pond, places like that, Mayor, that we're not allowed, are we
Did-
distributing anything?
But those were covenants that the town wasn't party to. So this will be a town-wide thing that the town is party to. Then the people will have the opportunity to have their say. That's the whole point, right? And then council will take a decision after.
Just to add to so right now, in the areas like Forest Landing, right now, in-law suites are discretionary use, and then subsidiary apartments are not listed at all, which means they're not permitted. So people would go through the discretionary use process for an in-law suite, which might be at the time, used for an in-law or some family member. But then over time, when the use by that family member is no longer necessary, the issue is then that those types of apartments get rented out, but then at that point, they don't meet the National Building Code, because you are required, if you have a separate dwelling unit, you are required to have firewalls separating, you have separate wiring, and all that. So really, the other intent behind it is to clarify and make sure that the apartments also, meet code if they get rented out. So, but right now it's only a discretionary use, but I'm saying only, but it's not a permitted use right now. So that, with the Housing Accelerator funding, the intent is to start somewhere, and there's a number of other types of uses we would be looking at for Torbay, but they require complete policy review, which we're doing as part of the plan review. So they're not going forward right now. They're embedded in the municipal plan review. So this particular one, we can review, you can review. This would be kind of the first minor change to consider that. So people do have the opportunity. We will make sure to distribute it maybe more than we would normally do, because there is no site-specific amendment, and then we'll see what response we get back.
Okay.
That'll be my proposal.
Great, thank you. Any other comment? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The next is the legislative requirement from the new Local Service and District Act, Towns and Local Service Act, to change the previous, they're updated to be the bylaws now. I guess what I'm trying to say is the policies before. So nothing has changed other than they changed the to be bylaws. So there's 4 motions here to change those. Motion to adopt the Town of Torbay mobile vending bylaws, formerly the Torbay Mobile Vending Regulations, under the new Towns and Local Service District Act 2023, Section 8.1E, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to adopt the Town of Torbay civic address bylaws, formerly the Torbay civic address regulations, under the new Towns and Local Service Act 2023, Section 8.1A, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to adopt the Town of Torbay mineral working bylaws, formerly the conditions required for mineral working under the new Towns and Local Service Districts Act 2023, Section 81B, 81E, 81F, 81M, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to accept the Town of Torbay noise and nuisance bylaws, formerly the Town of Torbay noise and nuisance regulations, under the new Towns and Local Service Districts Act 2023, Section 81F, as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Just for clarification for people who might read the minutes or watching or have questions, under the new Towns and Local Service District Act, there are no more regulations as we used to have prior. Now everything has to be a bylaw. So over the next course of the next year, as things come up for changes, we'll be readopting them as bylaws instead of regulations. That's basically what this is about. Okay, continue, sir. Thank you.
And the last motion here is to accept Torbay 2025 permit listings for the week ending February 27, 2025, as tabled. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, that it?
Yeah, no, before we go up to the report to worship, I just want to remind everybody that we are in the process of going through the town plan review. So if everyone just keep their eyes open on when that comes back to the table again, and if there's any necessary input at that point in time, then people can take a look and let us know. And so I would imagine that'll come back to staff for some changes, and then go back to the consultant again, and then come back for public final viewing, I guess, at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask one quick question about that?
Sure.
For the town plan work that we're doing, I know that there were some communications about changes reference to the roads and the systems there. Just curious, have we had conversations with the provincial government about those? The reason I'm asking, I know that for the Jack Burn in particular, that highway, when it was set up, it was, my understanding from the provincial government and our MHA at the time, that offshoots for that road was not something that the province was really gonna be interested in having a conversation about. And I
Talking
think,
about the bypass road?
yeah, and I just think with the, like, following on Indian Mill Line, Marine Drive, like, we have so many provincial roads within our community. I think it would be really important to run the draft town plan through the Department of Transportation or the corporate minister or whoever, just to see, because I think, you know, from the development perspective, I know I'm not against it at all, but I think that if the province already has some thoughts about what they will allow and what they won't allow, it's better for us to know before we bring that here to adopt it. And, you know, when we're looking at developing certain parts of the community and maybe allowing a development here or somewhere else, and then looking at where the traffic choke points and how do we adopt that, some of those, I mean, they look really good, but a lot of, there were ones that I saw when I looked at that were either Marine Drive or could be, you know, access to the bypass, that kind of thing. So just curious, and I don't know, maybe Julie, if you can help me understand that, but like if we're having those conversations with them, or should we have those conversations? I think it's important if we're making a plan and developing around provincial infrastructure that we consult them before bringing it for adoption.
I'm pretty sure the town plan has to get submitted to the department before it's approved, right? Yes.
So at this point, we've had multiple meetings with the Department of Transportation as well as other provincial agencies or provincial departments like agriculture, forestry, those kinds of departments. And basically, we have to meet with them in advance because we don't want to be in a situation that we submit to them and then they're opposed to something we're proposing. Like we're trying to work everything out in advance, so anything that you might want to propose is not getting stuck in some refusal loop. So we're trying to be ahead of that and come forward with a draft plan when we're at that stage, so we're not quite at that stage yet, that there hopefully aren't too many obstacles or concerns from provincial government agencies. So we're trying to be ahead of the game.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Hang on, where am I to? Admin and HR. Chair, it's gone. Deputy Mayor.
We had our meeting on February 25th. Councillor Manning, myself, Chief of Human Resources Officer, and our CAO. Items discussed was the recruitment and selection, and I'm just wondering, Mark, if there's an update on when those interviews may take place for the museum manager of the History House. Is there either
Yes, those are scheduled for Thursday and Friday morning of this week.
Okay, good. So we're moving right along there and getting a replacement for Noah. Housing Accelerating Funding Program, there's staffing requirements that, for planning and development, and I understand that that will come forward at our next meeting. And the others are straightforward there, so if anybody's got any questions, there's no motions. Anybody got any questions? The one thing that, the information was passed out here tonight, it's not here on the agenda, that the HR committee did review the council professional development and travel policy as requested at the last meeting, and as it currently is, we don't see any changes taking place, so it is as the last update, which was back in 2022?
Okay.
November, okay. November 2022, okay. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Corporate Services, Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. The majority of the ongoing information is in the first part of the report. I'm going to skip down to the motions unless somebody has a question in between there. So the first motion relates to the invoices over $5,000. So the following invoices are presented for approval. February 1st to the 15th, 2025, Receiver General of Canada for the payroll deductions, February 1st to the 15th, $53,129.99. D&K Imports, pipe and drape for the Commons in the amount of $7,704.92. Farrell's Excavating Limited, culvert replacement project, a progress payment in the amount of $66,230.95. Another one to Farrell's Excavating for also a progress payment for the culvert replacements in the amount of $47,920.50. WSP EI Canada Limited, Sidewalk Project Phase 2 Consulting in the amount of $18,692.68. And Island Pro Electrical for common shed upgrades in the amount of $6,723.93, all for a total of $200,411.97. So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next motion to award the financing for the 2025 half-ton pickup. Committee recommends awarding financing in the amount of $72,084.57 for the 2025 half-ton pickup to the Newfoundland Labrador Credit Union for a 7-year term and a 7-year amortization at the rate of 4.2% with a monthly payment of $991.96. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next motion is to reallocate equity investments in Sun Life to GICs. So as the town currently holds equity investments in Sun Life with a market value of approximately $9,600, it doesn't really sit within our investment policy per se, so we're asking to move that out of there, and it's been around for some years, and it was tied to a life insurance policy, and we haven't been able to track down exactly what the life insurance policy was. But we have an investment somewhere in Sun Life anyway, so it has to be reallocated out of there to GICs. So council authorizes the Director of Corporate Service to the sale of equity shares in Sun Life and the reinvestment of the proceeds into GICs. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
No, sorry, just take comment last.
All right.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next motion relates to the donation policy that was circulated, and feedback was passed back to our Director of Corporate Services. So the motion is council adopt a new donation policy as presented, effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next motion relates to an arrears sales bylaw. So as one of the mandatory bylaws listed in the new Towns and Local Service Districts Act, we need to have an arrears sales bylaw. So be resolved that the Town Council hereby adopts the arrears sales bylaw pursuant to the authority conferred in Section 7 of the Towns and Local Service District Act 2025. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next motion refers to the award of an appraisal services for all of our buildings and our outside assets, I guess, that are insurable as a result of the recent review of our insurance policies. So be it resolved that council approves awarding the critical building appraisal services to JS Held at a cost of $24,000 to be charged with building and maintenance and repairs account for each department. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So ends that report, Your Worship. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Number one, I want to thank the director for his work in the policy development and implementation that we asked about in the last meeting. I really appreciate that, David. Second thing, I want to thank David and Sandy. There's been an awful lot of work done by this department since Sandy and David have joined our team to work through things and find things and update things and saving money and looking after residents in the community. So I just want to extend a thank you for that as well. And I also want to extend a thank you for one of the asks that I had in the last public meeting was to provide the information based on how much money was left in the GL for the travel stipend last go. Mayor, I recall you had suggested, I think it was something upwards of $7,000 that you had paid out of your pocket alone, just you. So understanding the committee has reviewed the policy and has seen no reason for change. I did want to put on record, because it was alluded to, that there was no money left in that GL last go. There was $6,294.81. That was budget money that was left in 2024 last year. That was not available to other members of council to use. So just want to put that out on public record. That is the information that staff, and I want to thank, David and Sandy for collecting that information. So we can bring it forward to the chamber and make sure we get the right information. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? All right, thank you very much. Economic Development, Deputy Mayor.
One sec now.
Thank you.
Okay, we had our meeting on the 24th. Councillor Tapper, myself, Carrie, and Donna would have been at that meeting as well. Carrie? Yeah, I'm just looking at her name is not on there, so we can probably just add her in there as well as being present. And there's no motions in here,
There's one.
RBC.
RBC.
Yeah.
See, Ralph's supposed to be here doing this, I'm put on the spot now.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, motion to forward with leasing of the RBC building. The Economic Development Committee recommends that council move forward with the leasing of the RBC building and have our legal firm draft a lease which can be presented to the interested party with terms and conditions as agreed upon. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Question.
I'm all for moving forward with this lease agreement, and I do understand, and thank you to the director for sharing the information with council on it. Just curious though, should we not have a draft lease in place for us to know what we're approving if we're going to approve it?
That's gone to our legal counsel, and the leasing agreement will be drafted early next week. So we'll bring that back then.
So we're motioning now to allow that to go
Just to move forward, yeah.
Okay, so this motion is not to approve the lease?
No,
it's to
no,
just
no.
approve the lease
It's
being
just to,
created.
yes, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
and that's based on the information of
Yeah,
certain.
just to move forward, yes, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. Do we know how much it's gonna cost?
Not yet, no. What is the amount of the leasing agreement?
Yeah, no, to get the lawyers to draft
No.
it up,
No, we don't have an estimated cost of that.
okay. Is it within our budget allocations? I'm sorry, I'm asking more questions, but just wanted to ask.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other
I have it in
questions?
mind.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Any other questions on the report?
No, I don't see none. All right, thank you very much. Infrastructure and Public Works, Councillor Eppley.
Thank you, Mayor. Myself, Councillor Manning, and our Director of Public Works met at the depot on Tuesday morning, February 25th at 8 a.m. The items we discussed, we talked about the trail developments. We chatted about the one down at Colonel Amherst Monument. Paul, is my mic not on? It shows on.
Very nice.
Push
down.
Shut down on that.
Press down on that part. There you go.
Thank you, Brian. Sorry, I saw the red here. I thought I was good to go. My apologies. So we had a conversation about the Colonel Amherst Monument Trail conversation that's been ongoing. There has been some conversations around land ownership and the family who have claims to land in the area. One of the things that was noted in the meeting was that there is already, let me just find the right language, help me out, Brian, what is the word I'm looking for?
License to occupy.
Thank you, thank you. And I will, if I could just take the minutes to apologize for being late this evening. I'm working not only for myself, but supporting my boss as well, and I'm trying really hard to keep it all together these couple of weeks, so I apologize to council for being late, and I apologize for not being able to think of the word. But the license to occupy, so we noted that the East Coast Trail has a license to occupy for their trail that's in that region. And we think it's important, especially with the discussions around who owns the land, to ensure that if the town has actually put a trail in, that the people and the infrastructure of the community is protected with that information. So we've asked Brian to go back, speak with the landowners, have a conversation about what's left to try to get this put together, and have a conversation. We're actually looking at getting the license to occupy in place for that. Brian also did show us that there was a strip of land going up, we recall Costley's Hill, which may be another way to connect to the beach. So it is not in our master plan, but when you have a situation where we have the land and we have the things that we need to put it together, and it will be a great ad, certainly, something that we looked at for consideration. So, and I believe Councillor Manning, when we were in the meeting, she said, when we were young, we used to come up over that hill. So just that connection of, growing up here, being a part of the community, and then, looking at putting that infrastructure in place for, families in years to come, I think it's a great idea. So all in conversation. We had a conversation about the bypass road to the Bridge Road area. The license to occupy has been submitted for that. We had a look at the Trails End Nest area and followed up on the conversation and questions that Councillor Pollard asked about in the last meeting. So Brian is looking at that and trying to figure out the ins and outs of where to from here. That was the Flora Drive, down to Indian Meal Line. We're looking at a drainage issue there. So Tony, we just need to figure out if we do put a trail in there, if there's enough space to do that. And then we're also looking at what impacts there could be for drainage, knowing that, over that side of Indian Meal Line, there have been drainage conversations, concerns, trying to make sure that the right infrastructure will be put in place if we were to look at putting a trail there. So all of those items were things that we talked about in the committee meeting. The CCBF projects are here, so we've got an update on that. The new projects for 2025, they are in here. The projects from 2024 that are carried over, no, this is new. The safety lights, we're just waiting for the weather to change now to get that sorted. Brian's got all that taken care of. The abutments and culvert replacement in Pine Ridge area, 98% complete. Let's see what else we have. Culvert replacement, again, that's complete, 10-month warranty. And the rest of those are fine. The wetland sewer study project, I wanted to spend a couple minutes there. Again, we had a conversation, and it came up this evening as well when one of the residents spoke about their concern about putting I think it's an 81 unit piece of infrastructure in the community. And as far as this is concerned, we actually went back, Mayor, and we had Brian dug out for us the BAT study that we talked about in the last meeting. And he confirmed for us and showed us that the technologies that we have today, the available ones around the wetlands and all the new technologies that you and I have learned about at the M&L table over the years, that they're not actually in the BAT study. And he notes here, the primary focus was to construct a treatment facility at the beach site. So that was what I came into,
Right.
It was a $20 million infrastructure. But I think in the BAT study, it was like 16 million. And I thought it was 20 million, so I'll stand corrected on that one, but it's still fairly significant. I guess that was.
I think I said 16 million, didn't I? And
It was 16 million in the BAT study, so my recollection is 20 million from the first strategic session that we talked about, strategic planning. But I happily stand corrected if it was 16 million. Still a hefty chunk of change for taxpayers. There was no reference to a decentralization of the system, and that was something that we talked about when I learned about the wetlands. Because one of the things with wetlands is you want flat land, and we were thinking, well, how are you going to do that in Torbay? But back to the conversation of the water study and what we did, can you break it up into bite-sized pieces? So if you get a flat piece of land, but then there's a hill, how much of the sewer capacity could that site do, and what does that look like? So the study that we would do would be understanding with these technologies, with our topography, and with the community and the current sewage lines and the capacities that we need to have, what does that look like? And there were 5 different technologies that were analyzed. The wetland was not one of those, so that was not explored. So just to follow up on that. And then after some discussion around the technologies, decentralization, and phasing of the solutions, we agreed that Brian should reach out to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure to talk about the best way forward. Because we want to make sure that we're being open to technologies, that we're finding the most efficient, economical ways to look at this and try to find solutions for residents. So with all the information I shared in the last meeting and that, I think we've covered that topic fairly comprehensively, but it's an important one, and I think it's one that warranted that time. Well, multi-year capital works project, so the funding arrangements are laid out here and the deadlines have been extended. The project is out for tender here for the common generator project to February 26th. That's closed, 2025. Bear with me tonight, guys. Some days I'm brilliant, there's other times you gotta bear with me. Stormwater mitigation, so we had a conversation about that. The sites are being worked on. The director is meeting with and chatting with people in those specific areas to talk about what's next following the plan that was provided by the engineers. Water and wastewater projects, so all of that is pretty much on par for the normal update that we have. There was one piece in this, though, that I do want to talk about, and Brian was ready for me. So part of the testing for the technologies, it's going to require different lots of land to test the technologies. And my understanding is that there's a conversation that needs to happen around having resources available to look at bidders that may come in to test these technologies. So as this rolls out, there is a possibility when the next step of this process happens that there may be a discussion that has to happen about having financial resources available for the testing. So once it's moved forward and the successful applicant wins the bid to do their technology at that site, that would roll into the cost. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. But actually, I'm going to ask Brian to explain this one better because he's the guy who's got his thumb on the pulse, and I'm speaking off recollection. Brian,
Are we
can you
talking about
speak?
the water treatment plant?
Yeah, the technologies for that.
Sure.
Yeah, Brian, can you jump in there, please?
So as part of the RFP process, the consultant has brought up the possibility of a honorarium or a stipend for the consultants, for the 3 consultants as bid on the project. Not consultants, contractors, sorry. So similar, we did the same thing over at the Common when we did it. So basically, when they're putting in such a large effort to bring these bids and design builds together and testing technologies, that the industry standard is that they would be offered stipends for it. So I've got some information on that. I've shared it with the committee, and tomorrow morning I'll share it with the rest of council, and it probably is going to warrant a bigger conversation with council to decide.
So this is just an FYI at this
Yeah.
point that conversation is coming. As we sat in the committee meeting, Brian has kind of braced himself before this one came up, going, okay, because I know, Trina, you're going to push back on this. But as he does so well, he said, listen, I'll go back and I'll have the conversations and all the information that you need before this comes back to council for further discussion and for potential vote if we're going to go that way. But I just wanted to put it out there right now that it came up in committee. This is a conversation that we are having at committee. Communication will find its way here. And if there is any action to come on that, then it would have to come back to council and have that motion and conversation. But I thought that it was important to bring it up and give you a heads up now to council itself and also to the public. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to hear from everyone in the community. Wastewater testing.
I do have a
Oh.
question on that, though.
Yeah.
Brian, can we check in with the town of Puchco? They did the exact same thing and see what they did? They did tree technologies, prove it out, right?
Yes, I will check with them.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And the town of Gander has done the same thing, my recollection. They have quite a water system there, don't they? They have put it in before.
Well, they didn't, what we're doing right now at Norpan is exactly what Pouch Cove did in Pouch Cove. It's the phased approach, the 3 proved technologies, they have to hook it up for a period of time, prove that it works, that type thing. So
Yeah.
they did the exact same thing.
Okay.
Like 4 years ago.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, like, for another reference point, I believe Gander went through that a couple of years ago as well, so maybe a reach out to them, Brian, might be helpful as well. All right, let me have a look. Email from property owner at Robbins Pond Hill Road. So there was a request for the town to snow clear Robbins Pond Hill Road past our road. My understanding is there's a cabin in there, and somebody wanted to have year-round access. So committee discussed it and considered it. And Councillor Manning and I were very clear about, if you do for one, you do for all. There are parts of this community where people live in their cabins year-round, and we're not, making those roads accessible. We're looking after plowing as far as the town road goes. But, if we were to build a home and we wanted to, get the permitting and put it in, we'd be responsible for putting in that road and making sure it happens. So in this situation, as it was presented, committee's recommendation was to not do that as a one-off when we have other people in the community who, are requesting similar things, and we're saying no. So,
We have a policy on this anyway, right?
so at this,
Snow clearing policy. Do we not?
I'm not sure if it addresses one-offs like this, these little short gravel roads at the end of our roads, but I'll double check on that for sure.
Okay.
yeah.
I've just been reviewing it, I don't recall it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, or maybe it's something that we consider mentioning in the policy, Brian, so that we're clear that we don't do this for one-offs. But, I understand people wanting access and to do that, but the one-offs is not how we should be doing our business. If we're doing it for one, we should be doing it, across the board. And at this point, our recommendation was to not provide that snow clearing. If the person wants to have access to their cabin, they're more than, they can certainly find ways to put someone in place. But at this point, the taxpayer dollars are not something that we suggested to be used there.
That would have been a known for the occupants anyway. If they're occupied and they're seasonal, and we had this conversation when we did a recent approval, and it was known that there wasn't going to be cleared or serviced. So there should be no, anyone second guessing that. The only thing about that was, I think at some point in time, the road was cleared, not necessarily on a regular basis, but the plows when they wouldn't turn around, sometimes they did clear the road. If my memory serves me right, Brian, you would correct me on that, sometimes they did, but.
Yeah, so.
Well, it's not a road that was never agreed to be cleared anyway.
Yeah, and from my understanding, like I say, the times that it was open up, it was open up for recreation events, for parking, for snowshoeing hikes and stuff like that. I don't think it would be in the snow clearing, because it would also have to do with maintenance of the proposed road as well, right?
I just want to chime in on this one as well. And the fact that if that was for a cabin, then it was for seasonal, not year-round. I was approached last week about land for sale in that area, and if they pursued the building there, that the road had to be paved and turned over to the town. And a comment was made about this, so we need to make sure that we're not treating one individual or one resident different than another. And I'm assuming because there was issues about that particular house and that area and cabin, and that was one of the things, one of the prior people that were looking at purchasing it. And we have another particular location. It was plowed one year when the group were up there and we were snowshoeing, and that was a part of an outing. And but I think that a lot of this, and if we haven't, we need to make sure that we're being consistent around the town doing what we're doing, because that was not intended to be a year-round living
To
place.
that
So
point,
I think that's the reason committee took that
that's
decision.
why, yes,
Yeah.
and I just want to
Yeah.
emphasize the
'Cause we did
fact that
discuss
you're
that at committee
doing,
as well.
yeah, taking that
Yeah.
to,
action.
to that point, we also did discuss, changes in the community, and because it's always been that way, doesn't mean it has to stay that way. So, and this is back to the municipal planning conversations, of course, but, where my house is right now in the Bolling line, where the mayor and I live, in that neighborhood, 20, 30 years ago, that was all cabins, and now it's a community space where people live and there's a neighborhood there.
But
So-
it was always a road.
But my point is, you know, that change can happen. I'm not saying in either of these instances that's what we need to talk about tonight or debate. What I'm saying is that the changes that need to happen here should be coming through the planning department, the municipal planning work we're doing, having that conversation. And just to your point, Mary, making sure that as we're growing the town, we're planning and thinking it through, and that we're doing it in a way that's fair to everybody.
That the roads are paved by the owners that are developing in the area, and that's important. That's what I just wanted to emphasize.
It needs to be as per town policy and how we do our business, right? So that was the point that we had made. Councillor Manning, is there anything that you wanted to add on that specifically? Any thoughts you had?
No, actually, you've all covered it all. I'm fine
Yeah.
here. Thank you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Everything is good.
All right, so moving forward, we got a couple of motions here, like the rest of our colleagues, looking at making the regulations switch over from regulations to bylaws. So the first motion I have to offer, motion that the town of Torbay pursuant to section 7(1)(b) of the Towns and Local Service District Act, adopt the boil order and use of a source of water bylaw 2025 as presented. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second motion, motion that the town of Torbay pursuant to section 8(1) of the Towns and Local Service District Act, adopt the traffic bylaw 2025 as presented. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The flow meter numbers are pretty consistent. Director did give us an example, though, of where the numbers were off a bit. And he said his team could get down there very quickly with the great resources and tools that we have available to them to pretty much pinpoint where to address the issues so that they can plan and get ready for that. So just a really good example of how we invest in these technologies and we're saving taxpayers time, money, and effort for having that in place. So thank you for sharing that, Director. The recycling education, just a reminder to everybody in the public that that is paid for. That is not something that the town is paying for, and getting that sorted. And then, of course, the traffic calming update, which is something that we know we need to have under control and conversations around, because it's definitely an issue in the community. Other than that, we had a kind of conversation during the presentation of this, so if anyone has anything further to add or talk about, by all means. But if that's the case, so ends my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Recreation and Community Services, Councillor Manning.
Thank you, Mayor. So we had our meeting Wednesday, February 26th, 8 a.m. early in the morning. Everyone was wide awake. Program and events, our communications. We discussed the communications regarding all the registration processes available to the residents, and the director updated that there's going to be a lunch and learn regarding on how to use e-services for residents who might be interested. Just something that we thought would be a good opportunity to put off and see if there's any interest certainly in it. Summer camp registration is going to open Wednesday, May the 7th. Registration fee has increased to $195 per week as certainly part of the budget decisions. And the director updated the committee on inclusion services requests that the department has received so far, which are being assessed, and to see if it's something we can do and elaborate further on, I guess. NHL alumni, potential event. Department is, the potential is to partner with the NL on a speaking event for youth with the topic of bullying and being a good community leader. So more information is going to be provided on that. That looks to be a good event in association with the schools and that too. The facilities, community gardens, registration is ongoing for garden beds and such. And contact is our coordinator, Kelly Tapper. Outdoor field rentals, we're expecting the rental requests to come in, start coming in before certainly March 31st. Now, under other, accessibility plan, committee discussed progress with the plan and the progress of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. We had a good discussion on that, and more information on the structure of the committee can certainly be seen there in the accessibility plan, but this is something the director is going to be moving on to get it up and going, because it's something we need to get going ASAP.
I got a couple of names of residents who
Yeah.
would be suitable and may be interested in being on that committee. I'll forward them on to director.
Okay, perfect.
There's gonna be an open call for
Yeah.
that.
I just know that we've had residents
Yes.
here in the council chamber talking about this specific issue.
Yeah.
And we've already talked to them about potential of being on a committee. But I didn't see the need to start a new committee if we're already gonna have this one. Do you want two?
No, not
Probably the
two,
same
yeah.
work. Okay.
Yeah, and that's gonna, we'll get into that discussion now within the next, a couple of meetings for sure, because something I'd like to see moving sooner than later. Next thing is the Safe Action Community Plan. We discussed social media promotion plan for topics that can assist with, like, say, education and awareness on safe community topics. Director's gonna discuss this with our communications department to see how they can work together and get something moving on that. Summer employment, jobs have been posted, so they're working well on that and getting things moving along. Training, the recreation staff just completed an Indigenous cultural diversity training, which was presented by First Light. 2 other sessions are going to be planned for March and April, in which council and management and other employees can take part in. I'm kind of looking forward to that myself.
There's already an invitation gone out for that.
Okay, yeah.
One of the dates.
Yeah. And summer events, we were asking for an update on the time in Torbay. And the director's going to provide an update to us, and we'll bring back a schedule at a later date. Later date meaning sooner than later. That's something we want it moving
Oh, you should
and get
call-
information right
you should
away.
call it sooner date to.
Yeah. I didn't do the minutes. Other than that, and Councillor Appleby, I'm sure you'd like to have a comment or two.
Well, you know.
I rest my case.
Surprise, right? But, yeah, no, I just wanted to follow up further to Mayor's point. That's absolutely important, Craig, to make sure that the people in the community who have an
Yes.
interest in this are available, and we did talk about that, and that's why I chimed in there, because I think it's a really important point. You know, there are people who have an understanding, who have lived experiences, who have education, training, there's all kinds of cool things, as we've seen tonight from the residents here, who offer to volunteer their time to support us in work in this community. So that's really important, and the accessibility plan is provided here for anybody who wants to have a read of it. We also talked about communications with the Safe Action Community Plan, and we talked about, you know, some of our partners that we have. The RNC has content around safe communities, that kind of stuff. There was also through the Red Cross, a program that Jen had referenced that we could see if they have content that we may want to retweet and share.
Yeah.
And I know the Torbay Lions have the Lions Quest thing as well. So we were going to reach out and have a conversation with some of our community partners to see if there's content ready that we could help with sharing around safe action and community planning as well. I think that's about it for me. Thank you. That's enough.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of those?
On the, we talked about it at the History House as well with regards to the time in Torbay. So it was my understanding that there's going to be a joint meeting
Right.
with Economic Development History House and,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
Recreation Community Services to talk about the time in Torbay.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
And-
Further to that point, it did come up at committee. There was a question asked
Thank you.
about
Yep.
the funding, the $25,000 for the time in Torbay, if it were going to be given to an outside organization. And committee and staff were very clear and said, no, this is town funds. This is an event that's going to be led by town staff. And my understanding when we left that meeting, absolutely, the History House and the Recreation and Community Services Department are working very closely together in the best of Torbay and all the stuff that we can. So certainly open to working together across departments, that makes perfect sense. But just to clarify, if there are any rumblings in the community about that the $25,000 is to stay within the town, within the department, within the staff to create that plan that Councillor Manning talked about.
Just to say that in the past, though, the time in Torbay was done in conjunction with staff and volunteers.
Yeah.
And that's something I think that we need to look at, and I know will be coming up in the discussion from the History House, the economic development. It was always like a team of volunteers, and I remember in the past you were involved in that as one of the, many of us, I guess, that have been around were involved with how the time in Torbay was going to go and asking for volunteers. So I guess that's something we need to keep in mind.
And that's something I had brought to the table at our meeting, the fact that there is an upcoming meeting between the two departments, and that it was in the very near future, and that it, someone reach out to get it up and running, and their discussion then would be brought back to the various
Committee of the whole, really,
Well,
the
yes.
decision, yes.
Yeah, but,
Because keeping in mind, if we're going to have
and that'd probably
a
come from.
dance
Right.
or what have you for the time in Torbay, the time is getting short in order
Yes.
to plan
Timing.
something along those lines, so.
Yeah.
I think if I could, just on that point, Deputy Mayor's correct, I was on the first planning committee for the time in Torbay. I did watch that over the next couple of years as I stepped away, and it did dissolve. Community members were engaged and then pulled back. There's also, at that time, it was a weekend event that we talked about. At committee, we talked about having a series of events for a time in Torbay throughout the summer. So I think at this point, we've got limited resources. Staff only have so much capacity. Summers are really, really busy with all kinds of events to find the right time. I have nothing but the utmost confidence in our directors to come together with their departments, hammer a plan, and bring it forward to us. So always open to the conversation of working with volunteers in whatever capacity that makes sense. But I think it's a good idea to let staff put together for us, that we talked about a committee, was
Yeah.
having staff put together a plan, bring it back to the table, and then we would go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
know
you.
last year, the time in Torbay took place over the whole course of the whole summer. I thought it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the same
And,
model.
the difference last year was the musical parts of it at the History House and things like that. So, that can be in itself, we'll say be a summer, another name to it, summer music, because that's something that can keep going and going from year to year, no doubt, right? And a time in Torbay, to make it more special, I guess, or stand out more, is, like it did years ago, we had it on a specific weekend, and there was probably Friday night and all day Saturday, and Saturday night and into Sunday with activities for all family, different stages of, so.
All right, we'll leave
But
that
that's a
with,
discussion with the,
we'll leave that with all you guys to figure out.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Atlantic Liaison Committees, Atlantic Mayor's Congress, I have no update. Intergovernmental Affairs, I just want to say thank you to our staff, Julia and Kim in particular, and Carrie, whoever worked on this Housing Accelerator Fund announcement that we had last week. And thank you to Minister Thompson for coming down and announcing our $2.1 million for the Housing Accelerator Fund, and a representative from CMHC that came down from Toronto, Montreal, somewhere in Quebec. And actually, she told me the name of her town, but I can't remember now. Small town, she said 40,000. I said, right on, very good. But I want to thank them and members of council who came here and participated in the announcement. It's always nice to have members of the provincial government, MHA Wild was here too, and particularly the federal, to come down here and give us money. It's excellent. I'm kind of disappointed David never had our big check paid out, but that's all we could do. We weren't giving away the money this time, so we were just accepting it. And, you know, I'm looking forward to the changes that we're gonna be making to be able to implement that. It sounds like a lot of homes, but it's really not. When you think about it, it's not really much more than what we would normally do over the course of 3 years, so I'm really looking forward to being able to leverage that funds and try and help encourage us to be able to develop in a way that suits our town. What else have I got? Jack Bird Arena.
Nothing to report.
Nothing. Thank you very much. Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't have anything. The next meeting
Okay.
is next Wednesday. It is.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that I think I brought it up at the last meeting was Craig Pollitt gave a presentation for Pollitt Strategy.
Great.
And Tyler Downey, I think I mentioned that. No, I wouldn't have mentioned it 2 weeks ago. I mentioned it at our HR meeting, I know.
It's on the agenda of the next Killick Coast Regional
Yeah,
Managers.
and it's a great initiative that they've got on the go for any funding applications that are coming in. They also do strategic planning, organizational reviews, and I was really impressed with the guy, Tyler, and what he brought forward. So,
Yeah.
and like we said earlier, it'd be good to get him at the mayor's and deputy mayor's meetings as well.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Toby, Roland from Sudbury.
Yeah, the constable that I've been dealing with actually is coming to meet with our Killick Regional Managers next week as well.
Okay,
So that's
perfect.
still in constant contact with them.
Very good. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Manning.
The minutes are there. The firefighters are doing their due diligence, and I just wanted to put out to say a huge thank you to them, to each and one, and to their families for allowing them to put their time in at what they're doing, because they spend a lot of time with their training, and they're always there when the calls come through. So thank you to the firefighters.
Mayor, can I speak to that?
Sure.
Saturday morning, the graduating committee that have been doing all the fundraising for the Holy Trinity High grad hosted a polar dip. And I thought long and hard before getting in the pond, because since I've had COVID, one shot after another pretty much, I've ended up with some version of sickness. So I declined this polar dip, but it reminded me of the polar dip we did all those years ago for mental health. And so I wasn't missing it. I had to be down there front and center. But, and full disclosure, my daughter's graduating this year, so of course I would be. But I wanted to put a shout out to the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department for what they did. They worked, I'm not on the committee. I see the stuff that goes through and help where I can. But I gotta tell you, they worked with the committee members. They put this together. When I showed up, they had the ice all cut out. The boys were in their suits. They were waiting for them to come out and come in. The truck was there. They were just as phenomenal as they always are. And then the parents and the children that actually participated, I'm glad that we didn't have this when we were there, but they had a little surprise. And the surprise was for the person who could stay in the longest, they got $100. So it was really cool. One of the dads and one of the students stayed in, and they were like down almost a 5-minute mark of being in the water. And they negotiated amongst themselves a deal, which was brilliant, to say, listen, you know, the $100 we'll split it. So as a parent who's in that space, I went, listen, that was so worthy. I'll donate the other $100 for them, so they get $100 each.
I wouldn't have came out, I would have been like a pop.
But they did. They were there. And what wasn't going to let the other one go? And what did they do? But they negotiated a deal. It was so good to see this dad who's super cool and this kid who's super cool looking at each other going, I'm not going to, be the one who gives in. And then they were like, you know what, let's work together and we're going to find a solution. It was gorgeous. So to Amy and Brian Murray and to everyone who made that a roaring success, Jody was down, he came, made a donation. It was really something. And the Torbay Fire Department, as Councillor Manning said, goes over and above all the time for us and for people in this community. And it was such a good event and such a great thing that they had part of. I just wanted to make sure that I shared it and had it on record.
I was hoping to go, but I was down at Blood Services.
You were giving blood at the time. Yes, you were. I saw that on Facebook. Yeah, which is very important as well, right? Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Urban Municipalities Committee, I don't think that we have any update. Mary, to your point, I'm gonna reach out tomorrow to the staff at M&L to find out if the minutes have been circulated. If the agenda has been circulated for next meeting in Marystown, the minutes should be
I
attached to
see
that.
that, but it was just one of those
Okay.
communication, and there
Right.
was no,
So I just
Attached
want
to
to make everybody aware that the next meeting is March 28th and 29th in Marystown. And we were planning on having our August meeting in Bay Roberts, but they couldn't do it, so I don't know if I should say or not, but Port Basque is looking at hosting the one in August. So I just want to make sure that we keep that in mind, as it's not a cheap trip to go to Port Basque, so we want to make sure that people keep a few bucks in their account to be able to, somebody to be able to go out there to represent the town. All right, and I guess I'll hear back soon enough if that thing is definitive. I know that the council had to make a decision on it, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Notice the motion we have done. New business. Pass, me. As I always do, every meeting, I want to thank council and staff for all the work that you've done the last couple of weeks. I know that you guys are extremely busy. There's never a dull moment with, between emails and phone calls and everything else that we need to do. And I also want to thank the residents for all the feedback and emails and phone calls that they give me every week. Never gets boring, so I want to thank them for that. Also, I want to thank and congratulate the Folk Arts Council, our Rocky Owl Singers, Juniper Ridge Intermediate Choir, Charla Woodford, yes. It was on the tip of my tongue. That played the fundraiser concert at St. Nicholas Church last night. Thank you to St. Nicholas Church for providing the venue. And to our volunteers with the food bank. They had quite a show last night. Looked like a packed house to me. Pretty good, and I want to thank everybody for showing up, paying your money to support our local artists and our local food bank. And I commented last night when I put my post up that at a time that we're living in now where things are so uncertain, and particularly on social media and in the world that we're in, so much hate getting spread. I was so proud of our residents and our community for coming together and, proving that there is still people that care about their neighbors and they want to make sure that people are looked after. So thank you for that. All right, Q&A. Did anybody have a question for the second Q&A? If you have a question about something we discussed that was on our agenda. Okay, very good, thank you. Our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place March 17th.
That's a little bit of typo, there's 18th.
March 18th. Sheila's brush.
March
Hopefully we
18th.
don't get slapped with that. 2025, 6:30, right here in our council chamber in the town of Torbay. And I almost forgot, but I didn't forget because I just mentioned it. Happy birthday to Evan Vokey, March 3rd, Infrastructure and Public Works, and happy birthday
Today.
to Deputy Mayor Mary Dorn-Goss, March 23rd. I hope you guys have a great birthday and
I almost forgot that, I was hoping you would.
with your family and friends. Thank you. With a motion to adjourn, please.
Second,
Seconded, all in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. Thank you very much.
the registration opens up on the 11th.
I just saw that too, yeah.
that right?
I saw it, yeah. I've been waiting
Oh,
on
my,
that.
we,
Waiting
yeah.
and waiting and waiting.
So we need to get that out for sure. then.
Figure out who's going to Craig's in these. Because I got it again, I said it was all hope, right?
I know,
Except
the
for
thing
votes,
is, you
I was
need
waiting on
the,
this. Because that was kind of a month ago. I don't know why FCM is so, takes so long.